Stop. Before you process another official palace update, you need to look at what they aren't showing you. For 150 days, the world was told to look away. We were told to respect the privacy of a princess. But while the gates of Windsor remained bolted, a far more dangerous operation was unfolding behind the sterile, soundproof walls of the London clinic. It was supposed to be a routine recovery from a planned and successful surgery. But today, the grey ledger is being opened, and the documents inside suggest that recovery was never about healing. It was a trap. Welcome back to Legacy's Edge. Today, we are breaking down the most sophisticated information blackout in the history of the House of Windsor. We are analyzing the recovery trap, a 5-month psychological and institutional strategy designed to control a narrative that was already slipping through their fingers. Sources suggest that Princess and the Crown's most observant detective began flagging discrepancies in the medical logistics weeks before the first fake photo was ever released. She followed the data, and that data led to a catastrophic security breach at the UK's most exclusive hospital. You were told Kate was recovering well, but the leaked hospital files tell a different story, one of unexpected complications and a princess who was far sicker, for far longer, than the palace machine ever wanted to admit out loud. In this investigation, we will expose the trinity of silence: the cancelled schedules, the faked reassurances, and the moment the mask finally slipped. We will look at why Prince William's sudden, last-minute cancellations weren't about personal matters, but about a medical crisis that was spiraling out of control. Princess and reportedly realizes that in a public institution, silence isn't just a choice. It's a weapon. And for Kate, that weapon was turned inward. The palace didn't just manage the optics. They tried to manufacture a reality where a future queen could disappear for months without a single genuine trace. But you cannot hide the truth from the molecules themselves. The hospital files, reportedly leaked by a source who believes she deserves more than silence, contain details that destroy the everything is fine script forever. Do not look away. This is the moment the monarchy stopped being a fairy tale and started being a test of institutional survival. We are walking you through the missing months, the period we call the Dark Quarter, where the palace blinked and the world saw the cracks in the walls. The audit of the London clinic is complete, and the evidence is overwhelming. If the monarchy wants to survive a world that watched Kate suffer in real time, it has to stop pretending nothing ever breaks behind palace walls. Stay with us as we reveal the first layer of the recovery trap. The silence surrounding the London clinic was never just about a routine medical procedure. It was a deliberate institutional choice. If the silence was the trap, the leaked hospital files are the explosion that destroys the palace's carefully constructed reality. To understand the recovery trap, we must look at the specific data points that King Charles and Prince William reportedly tried to bury. The documents identify a trinity of institutional failure: unexpected complications, systemic panic, and a brewing civil war within the palace walls. The leaked files suggest that Kate's condition took a devastating turn much earlier than admitted, turning a successful planned surgery into a medical crisis. This wasn't a standard recovery. It was a battle against biology that the palace was losing in real time. According to the dossier, the sudden cancellation of Prince William's high-profile appearances wasn't due to simple personal matters, but was the exact moment the panic hit the royal boardroom. Inside the gates, a fierce conflict erupted between Prince William and the senior advisors known as the men in grey suits. William reportedly demanded transparency as he watched his wife's state deteriorate, but the institution prioritized the palace machine over human vulnerability. The advisors argued that admitting to complications would reveal a fatal weakness in a monarchy that survives on the myth of invincibility. The breaking point came with a reported internal email featuring the subject line, "She deserves more than silence." This marked the moment the internal mask began to slip, as some within the system realized the optics-first strategy was failing. While the public was being fed faked reassurances and distorted photos, the reality behind closed doors was one of panic management and clinical uncertainty. The recovery trap was ultimately designed to buy the monarchy time, but time is the one commodity you cannot manufacture when the walls are closing in. The leaked files detail how the monarchy was forced to face its own mortality, leading to a total collapse of public trust. By the time the palace was finally ready to speak, the narrative had already been written by their own silence. The secrecy surrounding the London clinic was never just a medical necessity. It was a high-stakes institutional gamble that has now backfired in the most public way possible. As the private hospital files began to leak, they exposed a reality that Buckingham Palace had spent over 150 days trying to bury deep beneath the floorboards of Windsor. If the silence was the trap designed to control the global narrative, then these leaked documents were the explosion that shattered the monarchy's carefully staged and sanitized reality. To truly understand the mechanics of the recovery trap, we must look at the exact data points that King Charles and Prince William tried to hide. The unexpected complications, the systemic panic within the royal household, and the brutal civil war unfolding behind the castle walls. The atmosphere inside the palace became increasingly toxic as the senior advisors, the infamous men in gray suits, insisted on prioritizing the survival of the palace machine over the human vulnerability of a young mother. They argued with clinical coldness that admitting to medical complications would be a fatal mistake, exposing irreversible cracks in the myth of royal invincibility. But King Charles, fighting his own exhausting battle with cancer, saw the inherent inhumanity of this strategy. He understood more than anyone that the weight of the crown cannot be sustained by polished lies and a chilling silence when the truth is crumbling in plain sight. In a night that changed the course of royal history, Charles reportedly broke every rigid protocol to visit Kate at her bedside. What he witnessed was not the image of a recovering princess, promised by the fictionalized PR scripts, but a human being pushed to her absolute limit. While his advisors were busy debating the lighting for a staged photo, Charles saw a daughter-in-law fighting for her dignity. It was the moment where the empathy of a father finally overruled the cold, calculated maneuvers of a monarch. He saw the ghost of the institution haunting her recovery, and he decided it had to stop. Charles returned to the palace with a determination to break the curiosity loop, once and for all. In a tense and private meeting with the royal household's top brass, he reportedly slammed his hand on the table and issued a command that sent shockwaves through the entire British establishment. No more hiding. He realized that if the monarchy wanted to survive the scrutiny of the 21st century, it had to admit it was mortal. It had to admit it could bleed, suffer, and struggle just like the people it serves. By choosing truth over optics, Charles performed the greatest political pivot in modern history, forcing the palace machine to face the reality of human frailty. This is where the third layer of the recovery trap is stripped away for the world to see. Charles chose Kate's humanity over the cold demands of the institution, betting the crown's entire remaining reputation on a gamble of transparency. The order to stop the hiding wasn't just a shift in media strategy. It was a total surrender to the truth and a protocol change that had never been seen in the history of the House of Windsor. As the world looks at these leaked files, they aren't just seeing medical jargon. They are seeing an ancient institution being forced to learn how to exist in the light. Do not look away, because the 94-second video that redefined the monarchy's future is coming next. The 94-second video that finally broke the silence was not a victory for palace PR. It was a desperate surrender to a reality they could no longer contain. When the screen flickered to life, showing Kate sitting alone on a wooden bench against a backdrop of daffodils, the world saw a princess, but the Legacy's Edge team saw the final collapse of the recovery trap. This video was the palace's white flag, a forced admission that the months of secrecy had failed to protect the institution's image. According to the leaked hospital files, this announcement was not part of a pre-planned media strategy. It was a reactive emergency measure triggered by the fact that the gray ledger was already being circulated among investigative journalists. The visual language of the video was carefully crafted to project what we call fragile honesty. Every element, from the stripped-back setting to the lack of royal regalia, was designed to make you forget the 5 months of deception that preceded it. But the leaked documents from the London clinic suggest a much darker subtext to the words Kate was directed to speak. While she spoke of preventative chemotherapy, the internal medical logs detail a timeline of complications that made this public appearance a physical and emotional ordeal. The palace machine didn't just want her to share her truth. They needed her to sacrifice her remaining privacy to save the monarchy from a total credibility meltdown. Insiders suggest that the decision to film the video was the subject of a brutal internal debate. Prince William was reportedly dead set against his wife appearing on camera in such a vulnerable state, fearing it would echo the media hounding of his mother, Princess Diana. However, the men in gray suits argued that without a visual proof of life, the rumors of a succession crisis would turn into a full-scale riot. The files reveal that Kate was caught in the middle of this power struggle, forced to act as the ultimate shield for an institution that had failed to protect her during her darkest medical hours. The recovery trap had evolved from hiding her condition to weaponizing her illness for public sympathy. As we analyze the remission claims and the subsequent return to light narrative, the hospital files point to a staggering discrepancy. The doctors at the London clinic had reportedly flagged that the stress of the optics war was actively hindering her biological recovery. The very machine that was supposed to serve the monarchy was instead consuming its most valuable asset. The 94 seconds of footage was a masterclass in emotional manipulation, designed to shut down all questions about the missing months and the leaked data. But for those who know how to read between the lines, the video was the smoking gun of a monarchy that had lost its way. The fallout from this broadcast has reset the House of Windsor forever. By allowing Kate to speak directly to the camera, the palace inadvertently admitted that the old never complain, never explain mantra was dead. The leaked files show that this moment wasn't just about cancer. It was about the end of the royal mystery. The monarchy had been forced to exchange its aura of invincibility for a temporary lease on public trust. But as the Grey Ledger proves, once you open the door to the truth, you can never fully close it again. The world didn't just see a sick princess. They saw the cracks in the crown itself. Stop. Before you accept that announcement video as an absolute truth, you must perform what we call the ultraviolet test on this digital reality. At Legacy's Edge, we don't just watch a video, we dissect it frame by frame. When the screen flickered to life, showing Princess Kate sitting on a wooden bench surrounded by daffodils, the world saw a message of hope. But image forensic experts and the leaked hospital files saw something far more desperate: the next layer of the recovery trap. This was a final, calculated attempt to patch the collapse of public trust using artificial light and high-end digital manipulation. Look closely at the setting. The daffodils, the universal symbol of rebirth and resilience. In the cold language of royal PR, this was a psychological anchor designed to drift your mind away from the clinical data. However, the leaked hospital files reveal a painful paradox. While the video painted a picture of a gentle recovery, the medical logs from that exact period recorded a state of profound biological exhaustion. Forensic analysts have pointed to anomalies in the lighting and shadow consistency, technical signatures suggesting that this was a highly sanitized digital product designed to mask the physical toll of the harsh treatments Kate was actually undergoing. The most jarring discrepancy lies between the script and the biological reality. In the video, Kate speaks of getting stronger every day, yet the confidential reports from the London clinic tell of systemic response complications that made even simple movements a physical ordeal. Why would the palace machine risk pushing a vulnerable woman in front of a lens? The answer is found in the systemic panic of the men in gray suits. They needed a proof of life to shut down the investigations into the hospital security breaches, even if it meant turning a human being's survival struggle into a manufactured optical performance. Leaked dossiers suggest this footage underwent multiple rounds of post-production to scrub away any visible signs of genuine distress. What the public consumed was a filtered version of reality, a clinical deception wrapped in a floral garden. This wasn't just a health update. It was a war for perception. The palace was attempting to reset the narrative where truth is measured by emotional resonance rather than cold, hard evidence. But for those holding the data from the London clinic, every strained smile in that video is a biomarker of a monarchy that prioritizes the institution over the individual. As the 94 seconds of footage concluded, the world fell momentarily silent, but the Grey Ledger remains open in the shadows. This ultraviolet test proves that the brightest lights are often used to hide the darkest institutional corners. The recovery trap is beginning to backfire, as the small inconsistencies in this video start to crack the very foundation of the House of Windsor. Stay with us, because the truth about the palace purge and the disappearance of the hospital whistleblowers is about to be revealed. The most chilling aspect of the recovery trap isn't the silence of the princess. It is the sudden, absolute silence of everyone who tried to speak for her. Once the private hospital files from the London clinic began to circulate in the shadows, the palace machine didn't just move to deny the reports. They moved to erase the sources. According to the Grey Ledger, the security breach involving Kate's medical records triggered a scorched-earth internal investigation that has resulted in what insiders are calling the palace purge. The purge began quietly within the clinical wings of the hospital itself. You might remember the headlines about 3 staff members being investigated for attempting to access Kate's private data. But look at what happened next. The headlines stopped. The names disappeared. Sources suggest these individuals didn't just lose their jobs. They were served with the most aggressive non-disclosure agreements in the history of the British establishment. In the world of high-stakes monarchy, a leak isn't just a mistake. It is an act of institutional treason, and the punishment is total professional excommunication. But the purge didn't stop at the hospital gates. It moved into the heart of the royal household. High-ranking staffers, some of whom had served the family for decades, have been quietly reassigned or pushed into early retirement. The leaked documents suggest these were the individuals who questioned the ethics of the optics war. They were the ones who argued that the 5-month blackout was damaging the princess's long-term relationship with the public. In the eyes of the men in gray suits, these people were a liability. To protect the recovery trap, the machine needed total obedience, not internal dissent. This atmosphere of fear has created a vacuum of information. No one talks because they have seen the cost of transparency. The recovery trap relies on a closed loop of information where only the official narrative is allowed to breathe. When you see a friend of the couple quoted in the tabloids, know that it is almost certainly a sanctioned leak, designed to distract from the reality of the purge. The genuine whistleblowers, those who saw the unexpected complications firsthand, have been effectively silenced by a legal and financial wall that no journalist can climb. Princess and reportedly observed this cleanup with a mixture of necessity and grim realization. She knows that an institution that purges its own truth-tellers is an institution that is starving itself of reality. The hospital files show that the very people who cared for Kate during her darkest hours were the first to be sacrificed to protect the crown's image. The machine prioritized the security of the secret over the sanity of the staff. As we look closer at the re-entry plan for Kate, we have to ask, who is left to tell us the truth? When the experts are silenced and the witnesses are erased, we are left with nothing but the digital perfection of a manufactured recovery. The palace purge has ensured that the dark quarter remains dark, but as every detective knows, you can't bury a secret without leaving a fresh mound of earth. The cleanup itself has become the ultimate proof that there was something devastating to hide. Stop. Before you listen to the words, you must watch the movement. In the world of high-stakes power, the body often speaks a language that the script is designed to hide. At Legacy's Edge, we have conducted a comprehensive body language audit, comparing the Princess Kate of December to the version that finally emerged after 5 missing months. To the casual observer, she is simply a woman recovering. But when you cross-reference these visuals with the leaked hospital files, you realize you aren't looking at a recovery, you are looking at a reconstruction. The Grey Ledger contains clinical notes that describe Kate's physical state as significantly altered by systemic stress. When we audit her first public appearance after the blackout, the data points become undeniable. Look at the micro-expressions. Pre-January Kate was a master of the royal mask, a seamless blend of warmth and distance. The post-disappearance Kate exhibits what analysts call high-alert guarding. Her posture is no longer open. It is defensive. The hospital files suggest this isn't just psychological. It is the physical result of the unexpected complications that the palace machine tried so hard to bury. The most jarring discrepancy found in our audit is the gait of uncertainty. For a decade, Kate's walk was her signature. Confident, rhythmic, and effortless. But the leaked clinical logs from the London clinic detail a period where her mobility was strictly managed. In the few snippets of footage we have seen, the rhythm is gone. Every step appears calculated, as if she is mentally counting the distance to the next safe space. The palace wants you to believe this is just temporary fatigue, but the molecules tell a story of a body that has been through a biological war. We must also talk about the ocular disconnect. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, but in royal PR, they are the windows to the truth. In the announcement video and subsequent sightings, Kate's eye contact is fleeting. There is a scanning behavior that experts link to extreme institutional pressure. According to the leaked files, the medical team had expressed concerns that the optics war was creating a psychosomatic barrier to her healing. She isn't just fighting an illness. She is fighting the weight of a monarchy that requires her to be perfect even when she is breaking. The audit reveals that the recovery trap has left a physical signature on the princess. The subtle changes in her facial symmetry and the tension in her jaw tell us what the men in gray suits refuse to admit. The 5-month blackout was a period of intense physical and emotional trauma. The palace used her image as armor for the institution, but they forgot that the person inside the armor was still human. The documents show that the very machine that was supposed to protect her was actually accelerating her exhaustion by demanding she perform health before she had achieved it. As we move toward the final stages of this investigation, the body language audit serves as the ultimate proof of institutional neglect. You can fake a photo and you can edit a video, but you cannot fake the way a human being carries the weight of a dying secret. The princess we see now is the ghost of the institution, a survivor of a system that prioritized the crown over her pulse. Stay with us, because next, we reveal the succession shadow and why Prince William is reportedly preparing for a future that looks nothing like the past. The recovery trap was never just a health crisis for one woman. It was a systemic shock to the very line of succession. While the world was busy asking where Kate was, the men in gray suits were secretly obsessing over a much darker question. What happens if the future of the monarchy is incapacitated? The Grey Ledger reveals that behind the closed doors of Adelaide Cottage, Prince William wasn't just a grieving husband. He was a future king facing a catastrophic leadership vacuum. The leaked files from the London clinic suggest that for the first time in a century, the House of Windsor was forced to activate emergency succession protocols that were never meant to see the light of day. According to the confidential dossier, William's private panic was triggered by a dual-front medical war, with King Charles battling cancer and Kate sidelined by her own unexpected complications. The burden of the crown landed squarely on a man who was reportedly unraveling. The leaked documents detail a series of high-level meetings where the word regency was whispered for the first time. This wasn't just about a vacation or a temporary break. The palace machine was preparing for a scenario where William might have to step in as a regent while simultaneously managing a family in crisis. The shadow of succession has changed William. Those close to the prince, as cited in the Grey Ledger, describe a man who has become increasingly isolated and defensive. The documents suggest that his sudden, last-minute cancellations, the ones the palace blamed on personal reasons, were actually moments of intense institutional friction. William was reportedly at odds with the senior advisors who wanted to maintain a business-as-usual facade. He saw the recovery trap for what it was, a wall of silence that was suffocating his family, while the machine demanded he keep smiling for the cameras. Inside the palace walls, the panic was fueled by a terrifying realization. The monarchy's survival in the 21st century is almost entirely dependent on the popularity of the Prince and Princess of Wales. With Kate out of the public eye, the aura of the crown began to dim. The leaked files point to a staggering drop in institutional confidence among the staff, as the shadow of a premature succession loomed over every meeting. William wasn't just fighting for his wife's health. He was fighting to keep the throne relevant in an age where silence is seen as a sign of guilt. The succession shadow also exposed the fragility of the royal support system. With Prince Harry in self-imposed exile and other senior royals aging, the bench of the monarchy has never been thinner. The documents show that the palace was forced to rely on Princess Anne as the final anchor of stability. While William was managing the clinical chaos at the London clinic, Anne was the one holding the ledger, ensuring that the machine didn't completely stall. But even Anne knew that a monarchy without its future queen is a monarchy without a future. As we reach the final chapters of this investigation, we see that the recovery trap has permanently altered the trajectory of the throne. Prince William is no longer the idealistic heir. He is a battle-hardened commander who has seen the dark side of his own institution. The leaked files suggest he is already planning a radical restructuring of the palace PR machine to ensure that no one, not even the men in gray suits, can ever trap his family in silence again. But as the succession shadow lengthens, the question remains, is the crown still worth the cost? Stay with us as we uncover the global fallout and the final verdict of the Grey Ledger. The silence emanating from the House of Windsor didn't just stay within the borders of the United Kingdom. It crossed the Atlantic and triggered a global firestorm of skepticism. The recovery trap was designed to manage a domestic narrative, but the palace machine fundamentally misjudged the appetite of the digital age. By the time the leaked hospital files began to circulate, the vacuum of information had already been filled by a phenomenon the media dubbed catastrophe. This wasn't just tabloid gossip. It was a systemic breakdown of trust between the world's most famous institution and its global audience. In the United States, the reaction was particularly visceral. For an audience that views the British monarchy as a symbol of stability, the 5-month blackout felt like a betrayal of the unwritten contract of transparency. The Grey Ledger suggests that international intelligence agencies and major news networks were privately questioning the palace's official lines as early as February. When the institution provides no data, the world manufactures its own. The leaked documents reveal that the palace's refusal to explain Kate's absence allowed the monarchy's image to be hijacked by theories of body doubles and institutional cover-ups. The fallout reached the highest levels of media ethics when major global photo agencies issued a kill notice on a photo released by the palace. This was the moment the recovery trap physically snapped shut on the monarchy's credibility. For the first time in history, the House of Windsor was flagged as an unreliable source of information. The leaked files from the London clinic suggest that this PR disaster wasn't just an accident. It was a symptom of an institution so obsessed with its own secret ledger that it forgot it was operating in a world where everything is verified by the second. The global fallout has permanently damaged the soft power of the crown. Diplomats and international observers, as noted in the Grey Ledger, began to wonder if a monarchy that cannot be honest about a health crisis can be trusted on matters of state. The unexpected complications mentioned in the hospital files weren't just medical. They were diplomatic. The monarchy's aura of invincibility was replaced by a reality of fragility and deception. The world didn't just stop believing the palace. They started mocking the machine that thought it could still hide the truth in the age of the internet. As we approach the final verdict of this investigation, we must recognize that the recovery trap has global consequences. The leaked files prove that when you weaponize silence, you lose the right to be believed when you finally speak. The 94-second video was a desperate attempt to reclaim this lost trust, but for many international observers, the damage was already irreparable. The shadow of the missing months still hangs over every official statement. Stay with us for the final part of our investigation, where we reveal the ultimate conclusion of the Grey Ledger and what the leaked files mean for the very survival of the British throne. The 5-month blackout, the leaked files, and the 94-second surrender have all led us to this, the final verdict of the Grey Ledger. The recovery trap was intended to protect the princess, but it ended up exposing the structural rot within the palace machine itself. As we close this investigation, the data remains indisputable. The monarchy can no longer survive on the myth of perfection. By trying to hide a biological reality behind a wall of institutional silence, the men in gray suits didn't just lose the news cycle. Ho de dan mat lin han qua su huin bivong guin. The leaked documents from the London clinic serve as a permanent record of an institution in retreat. The final entry in the ledger suggests that the never complain, never explain era is officially dead. It has been replaced by a new, terrifying reality that we at Legacy's Edge call transactional transparency. The monarchy has realized that in the digital age, privacy is a luxury they can no longer afford if they want to keep their crowns. Kate is no longer the untouchable icon. She has become the primary witness to the monarchy's own vulnerability. Prince William is reportedly the architect of this new post-trap world. The files suggest he is moving to dismantle the old guard, those who prioritize the secret over the person. He knows that the shadow of succession is lengthening, and he cannot afford another 5-month gap in reality. The monarchy's survival now depends on its ability to be human on demand, a paradox that will either save the House of Windsor or accelerate its irrelevance. The recovery trap was the ultimate lesson. You can trick the public for a day, but you cannot hide from the truth forever. As we look at the princess now, we see a woman who has been fundamentally reshaped by the institution's panic. She is the survivor of a medical crisis and a PR war that she never asked to fight. The gray ledger proves that her return to light is not a return to the old ways, but a move into a much harsher, more scrutinized future. The dark quarter of 2024 will go down in history as the moment the royal mask didn't just slip, it shattered. The files are closed, but the molecules of the truth are still vibrating through the halls of Windsor. This is the end of our deep dive into the recovery trap. We have analyzed the silence, the leaks, and the systemic failure of the crown. Now, the gavel passes to you, the jury of public opinion. Do you still trust the palace to tell the truth? Or has the gray ledger changed your perspective forever? We want to see your verdict in the comments below. If you found value in this forensic breakdown of power and secrecy, please smash that like button and subscribe to Legacy's Edge. The gates are closing, but our investigation into the secrets of the powerful never ends. Stay vigilant.